Welcome back, everyone. I'm Justin Parnell here with Dan Schneider. We are here for round 2 of our third draft of the day, featuring the Old Border Foil Cube. We just saw Sam Black take down blue-white control with his Domain Rock deck in round 1.
Seeming very unstoppable in doing so.
Yes. I don't think that there was much resistance in any form, in any fashion.
Yeah, anytime you have the grindy green deck way out card advantaging the classic blue-white control card draw deck, you know something strong's happening.
Now, you say card draw. That's interesting, because we're going to be featuring a deck this round that might be able to out-card draw all of the decks that we've seen so far, Domain Rock and blue-white control, and that's a Bant Enchantress deck.
So exciting. Enchantress, one of the classic archetypes, I think, in Magic, but at this point in time, Enchantress is with Enchantresses, right?
Yes,
like it's Enchantress's presence, Argothian Enchantress, and it's an absolute joy of a deck. We're going to see some weird cards that you don't typically think of. This is not sort of the way that we see this now, which is often more of like an aggressive deck, where you have these payoffs like all that glitters and things that where the deck sort of steamrolls or a boggles type thing. This is what we might have called a pillow fort type of thing, where we're going to put up some resistance to attacking and taking damage, and we're going to draw some cards to really try and grind the opponent out.
And our players are off to the races. Sam Black playing a Inaugural Hierarch on turn 1, and we have our first Enchantress from Fanshan Yang. This is 2 Madison locals, by the way, facing off in round 2 of this draft.
Very exciting. Enchantress has Shroud, so very difficult to interact with, with spells sort of the traditional way that you would. Sam's interaction of things like Flame Tongue Kavu.
We got one good one, though, from Sam. One really good one. That's Pernicious Deed.
Pernicious Deed is definitely a high-power card in this matchup, able to wipe a whole lot of things off the board and sort of reset a lot of what Fanshan wants to do.
Now, we have in Fanshan's hand, I spotted a Mirari's Wake. One of the things that Enchantress can sometimes struggle with, and when you don't have access to Serra Sanctum like you don't in this cube, being able to have enough mana to cast all of your spells, because you're going to be drawing cards with Argothian Enchantress, can be difficult, but that's the card that will unlock everything for you.
Yep. Looks like Sam has cast a probe here with Kicker.
Game 1, so we were wrong about the side end. That's a main deck probe.
It's a main deck probe. Looks like Fanshan is figuring out what cards he wants to keep. And has discarded, it looks like Future Sight,
and there goes,
I think, is underneath it, and the Mirari's Wake.
2 5-mana enchantments in the bin. So we see a Replenish.
Wow!
And this is a big
And we are
play.
off to the races.
This is a big play from Fanshan right here. Sam is really going to need, and I mean really going to need, to see this Pernicious Deed soon. And I mean really soon, because not only are you drawing cards from your Argothian Enchantress that has Shroud, but you have the top of your deck to do the rest of the work.
So is Argothian Enchantress a cast trigger?
It is when you cast it.
It's when you cast, okay, not an ETB. So we don't see any card draw off of that Replenish. Certainly 4 mana for 10 mana worth of enchantments is a pretty good deal.
I'd take it.
So that's why we didn't see any draws there. But certainly a lot of opportunity for some stuff to start happening on Fanshan's side.
Just a monster play.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the fact that Sam was actually able to accelerate out that probe with the Ignoble Hierarch and just punishing him for that.
Yep.
Punishing.
And now, Pernicious Deed, certainly a very, very powerful card that's going to help reset the board. But with 2 5-mana enchantments, it's a much bigger deal, because it's both going to wipe more of what Sam Black has in play off the board, and it's going to take him longer to get rid of it, just because he's going to need to have 5 mana to get rid of it.
This ain't a one-turn rodeo for Pernicious Deed.
Oh, absolutely.
You got to go around the block once.
Looks like we are
looks
casting...
like a Goblin Trenches to me. That's a Goblin Trenches.
That is awesome.
And we have a Mirari's Wake.
We have a Mirari's Wake.
That's two goblins every turn. Now, it does require you to sack land.
So we now have a Sterling Grove. That's
my.
going to protect all of Fanchen's enchantments and give him the ability to tutor enchantments to the top if he needs to.
He's not going to need to, because there is a Solitary Confinement in his hand, and we could be entering the Chokehold territory as early as next turn.
Yeah, and I think, is that a Pandemonium on top?
It is a Pandemonium.
Which is exactly where we're about to be. It is about to be Pandemonium. This is fantastic.
Producer Michael, I would like you to update Fanchen's deck name to Angry Bant Enchantress, please. As we did not see these two red splashes when we were perusing the deck, but it is clear this is not just a splash, this is part of the plan.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I expect, if I had to guess, if I had to peer into the void of things that could happen, we could see a replenish Pandemonium Opalescence set up at some point. Do we have the Opalescence?
No Opalescence.
Oh, that would have been incredible.
It's in the cube, but
not in Fanchen's list, unfortunately. That would have been incredible. But it looks like we'll be doing it the old-fashioned way with Goblin Trenches.
Now,
and,
yeah. And, of course, Goblin Trenches cost 2 mana to activate, but conveniently, each land produces 2 for you.
Happened too.
Yeah.
Thanks to Mirari's Wake.
And we have a Merfolk Looter on top. Do you think there's going to be many card types other than enchantments cast for the rest of the game?
I think that with the Pandemonium now in play, there's a decent chance that we might want to see some creatures come down. Okay. I think it's a non-zero chance.
Now tell me
what about both?
How about,
have we considered both?
How about both? How about both? Sometimes, back in the day, there was a card named Fires of Yavimaya, which is in this cube, and this is Saproling Burst. Now, Saproling Burst comes in with 7 fate encounters on it. You can remove 1 to make a creature that is equal to the number of fate encounters. Now, normally, it takes you a little bit to get going, but still a lot of power. With Pandemonium, you get to skip the combat step and simply just kill your opponent, which is going to happen right now.
Yep.
Okay, Sam going to say, yeah, you can go through the motions, I suppose. I'll take 6. Are you going to do it again? I'll take 5. Are you going to do it again? I'll take 4. And we're going to see Fanchen go through the motions. Sam...
I think Sam doing some back-of-the-envelope math.
Sam committed to punching that thing all the way down to 0, which I suppose I can respect. Oh, okay.
Wow.
He figured out the rest of the math.
We got the math.
That was an impressive game out of
That
Fanchen.
was incredible. What an exciting way to put together a deck that just had its own engine doing its own thing.
I will give it up. I was like, it's going to be difficult to take down Sam. Obviously, incredible player.
Yeah.
Has drafted an incredible deck.
Yep.
This is a very unique matchup for Sam to overcome.
Absolutely. Because both of them are kind of just doing their own thing. And Fanchen's thing is just doesn't really care that much about what Sam is doing at all.
Didn't at all. Actually, he did care. He let him put 2 5-mana enchantments in the bin.
Yeah, I always said, thank you very much for that thing you're doing.
Oh, yes. Yes, that will save me several turns of engagement.
Let us both put some cards in our graveyard. That will be fair for everyone.
Yes, I agree.
All fair magic involves the graveyard.
Yes. Yeah, Fanchen's like, yeah, you got a living death. I got a little living death action of my own, except I don't have to sacrifice anything when I cast it. Named Replenish.
Wow.
This is why we're here.
Yes.
This type of magic is why we are here watching this cube, putting together that combination of cards. It's like the enchantment theme was like, obviously it's what the deck is doing.
Yep.
But we saw the close of the game. We saw how the game is being closed.
And
I actually, that math was slightly off, and we all forgot. Sam forgot, Fanshin forgot, you and I forgot. Mirage Wake was out, so it actually did extra damage because all the creatures get +1/+1, so it was 7/6/5, and that was it.
Wow.
Didn't even need to remove more counters. Incredible.
Incredible.
Fanshin, I don't think is doing a whole lot with his sideboard.
No,
based on what I can
probably
tell,
not.
I think all of the enchantments that are going to be meaningful are probably present in the deck.
Yeah. Not much else on Sam's side. We could see him potentially consider bringing in the Tradewind Rider as a way to use the resources of the early creatures that he has to keep some of those enchantments on the board. It's a double-edged.
Slow him down.
It's a double-edged sword because if he's got an Enchantress effect, just giving him more cards in hand.
That's very risky, and you can't. Argothian can't touch that.
Can't get that one off the board. So we might see that come in as a potential strategy to try and to slow down how quickly Fanshin can put the whole engine together. You know, if all Fanshin's able to do is play, you know, Enchantress's presence over and over again, then this could be a way that Sam could sort of keep him off balance. But an amazing start to an amazing match. I certainly hope.
I want to see this one go to 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to see Sam's deck absolutely do its thing and just say, you know what, enchantment's pretty great, but I have that. I can ground you into a fine powder.
Yep.
If I can draw my value pieces before you can get online.
Yeah, find the deed being a big piece of that. Having the ability to sort of reset the board a little bit.
You think that probe might get sided out? Yeah.
I think we might see that.
I think we've done it, and we don't need to try that again.
Yes.
We don't need to risk it to try that again.
Some risk involved with that probe.
Sam does not have a way to look at Fanshin's hand before deciding if probe is worth it. There's no duress, no cabal therapy. So it's just a mind rot with some upside. Obviously a very good card in a lot of matchups, but probably too dangerous because we absolutely cannot risk anything like that remotely happening again.
Yeah. It's in a very impressive showing. I think when I was drafting this cube, I definitely saw Enchantress as a little bit of a risky endeavor. And it's amazing to see another drafter really put together a very impressive showing with it.
Yes.
You know, it is one of those things that's a little bit parasitic. The designer did make some nice updates on the enchantment side, bringing in a Banishing Light as a newer old border foil. So there's a little bit more interactivity with those enchantments. And it's not as much sort of not getting to do things. But here we are back.
Fanshin on the draw and saying, you know what, you have a couple of mana elves. You know what, I have one too.
We see a Powder Keg.
Yeah, this is the sideboard card that I believe has come in.
Yep. And we saw Sam very much thinking about whether or not to take this Powder Keg during the draft portion, agonizing over whether he needed the 11th fixing land. But you know, if he was really going to turn down that Llanowar Wastes.
Happy that he has a Powder Keg over the Llanowar Wastes now.
Yeah, definitely happy about that. One of the classic kind of sideboard cards. Before there was Ratchet Bomb, before there was Engineered Explosive, there was Powder Keg.
And we have a Merfolk Looter for Fanshin saying, you know what, I don't think I'm going to get a kicked probe sent at me again. I'll do it myself.
Yep. Yeah.
So notably, just like the aforementioned cards, Powder Keg is going to hit one specific mana value.
Yep.
We're not going to be able to do a pernicious deed style sweep. We're going to get 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s.
Yep. We have one counter on it now. Potential, that would get rid of the bird. I don't know if the bird is the thing that we're worried about, but notably does interact with Argothian Enchantress.
Yes.
So we could see that Powder Keg go up to 2 and just kind of live there
relax.
For a bit.
Yeah.
We don't need to blow anything up. We're just going to keep adding some time to that fuse.
And we see another red enchantment, Stormbind, going to the discard pile. When you got all those extra cards, what are you going to do with them? Maybe discard them to shock your opponent a couple of times.
Yep.
A card I absolutely love, and a card that was in my cube just because I loved it for probably 10 years. Compulsion.
That's the beauty of Cube.
So
It's
good.
to keep the cards that you love for as long as you want them. Yeah, Compulsion, great in Enchantress. Get to filter out those non-enchantment cards when you have the mana and the time to do so.
Sam agrees, respecting Compulsion and saying, you know what, Compulsion and Merfolk Looter can bite the dust. And I believe that Compulsion should be going to the graveyard as well.
I don't believe Powder Keg hits enchantments. I believe it hits artifacts and creatures.
You are right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, yeah, just making his loots cost some mana, I think was the decision making there, especially with Replenish and seeing that first enchantment hit the bin.
Yes.
Maybe we don't want to stick around for what that might look like.
Yeah, I don't want to find out. Now we have the Compulsion now. It does cost mana, and we're not exactly plentiful of blue on Fanshan's side yet.
No, just the bird really providing that value. I think we see a couple of really powerful enchantments in Fanshan's hand. I see a Future Sight. I think I see the new old border Vanishing Light.
And then we have
Sapperling Burst.
Sapperling Burst.
And then I think the last one might be the Goblin Trenches.
I think I spotted a Goblin Trenches as well.
So a handful of very powerful enchantments, but not really the engine yet to make those very powerful. Looks like we might have a split sleeve.
And Sam revealing he does not have any double-face cards in his old border foil cube.
Yeah, so it looks like we're doing a little bit of a sleeve swap, probably off of a basic land.
Fanshan really far away from that Future Sight.
Yes. Yes. Probably would have gone next from the looter, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say let's pick up another card. Is it an island? No. Future Sight. That's going to be a game 3 card.
All right, we got a
or this game later because I drew a Replenish.
Ornithopter of Paradise. Continue to fix Sam's mana. He has Casual Domain. You know, no big, whatever.
Yep. Turn 5, as you do.
Natural Tron.
Yeah. Fanshan with a 4-color deck, and Sam saying, you know what, I can do one better than that.
Yep.
So we drew another blue card, which is Frantic Search, going to untap these 3 lands when it gets cast, but notably not going to pick up another blue mana. Unless you draw it.
Well, it's on island and a trop, so it's going to pick up some blue mana.
I stand corrected, Fanshan. I apologize.
Which puts us at Future Sight. We might see him still discard it. No, we see Sapperling Burst and Goblin Trenches discarded. Untapping. We have a blue source. And
we have 1 mana floating, and we're just going to not utilize that.
Probably leaving mana up to Compulsion at the end of the turn. Based on what Sam kept the probe. Proves us wrong.
Yep. And kicking it. Can't resist. It's too many plus digits in your
That's tough.
Your card advantage column.
So Fanshan keeping the Future Sight, really feeling like that card's going to be important to kind of getting into an explosive space where he can take advantage of casting multiple spells a turn and trying to build up that Enchantress infrastructure.
And I really think that Fanshan believed Future Sight was a part of his plans last turn, and even more so going down to the only card in his hand. That's going to be the way to dig him out of this hole that he's currently in.
Yep. What do we see picked up? I think that's a
Kitar's Desire.
Which is being...
And the desire was to go into the graveyard to find a new card.
Sam picking up and reading it.
Yeah. Kitar's Desire is basically a creature cannot attack, and if you have Threshold, it cannot block. Thank you for the card viewer.
Yeah. Classic common pacifism variant.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know it. You love it. Sam picking up another double blue card in Capsize, which not the phase of the game for Capsize quite yet. But there, you could get there. Excellent with Mirari's Wake in your deck.
Yes, definitely true. Sam cashing in the Yavimaya Elder
immediately, no hesitation.
Oh, it's been beating down for a couple of turns, I think.
2 turns? 1 turn?
Function's at 15, so I think might have been 2 hits maybe.
Okay, that checks out. That checks out.
He also has a Carpulsion Forest,
Okay.
which would be it's provided the bird mana.
The green. Okay, yeah, 2 hits.
So maybe a pair of hits for that.
Well, I think probably when he ran out of lands to play from his hand is when it's okay. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time to find some more.
Yep. Flametongue Kavu.
This is actually pretty big because
Yep.
this is actually destroying one of Function's blue mana sources.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Okay, no float of blue in response. I was wondering if he might kind of give up on the Future Sight Dream and use the bird mana to compulsion away the Future Sight, given how far away he was from playing it at the time.
Losing that blue mana.
He's conceding.
And Function is saying, I've had enough. I have not assembled what I need to quite yet.
Yep.
Interesting, at 15, knowing there's Replenish left in your deck.
Yeah. Could have been a little bit abrupt. I mean, could also be that it didn't feel like he was enjoying the situation he was in and sort of rather...
I value my time a little bit.
Yeah.
I like to be on the play. Let's try 3.
It's also worth noting for people who are maybe new to coverage or haven't seen it, we are doing 40-minute rounds at CubeCon, and both of them are playing pretty grindy decks. And so it might be worth trying to avoid that draw and just concede a little bit early, try and get a game where I have an Enchantress effect a little bit early, and continue to play some higher quality games of Magic.
That's an excellent point.
And I can definitely imagine with both of these players, the decks they put together, that's definitely going to be a consideration. Making sure that we have enough time to execute our engines, knowing that both of them can be pretty slow and grindy.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent point. Intentionally not dead with unlimited time, but definitely in a situation that you do not want to be positioned to draw, even in the face of potentially winning game 2 or potentially losing game 2 and then not being able to finish game 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is going to put Function back on the draw, which is going to, very important.
Back on the play.
Back on the play, excuse me.
Okay.
Back on the play, which is going to be very important.
Yes.
It always is in most cubes, but I think especially given the decks that we're working with here.
Yeah, I wonder how aggressively he's thinking about looking for an Enchantress effect.
I would say it's worth a shot at least once.
Yeah, I would probably tend to agree, unless there's something in your hand that feels very powerful and explosive, right? If you can see your way to a turn, I don't know if Function has the mana acceleration enchantments like Fertile Ground or
we do have a Fertile Ground.
Fertile Ground. Do we have a Wild Growth? Wild Growth.
We primarily, I think we're working with Fertile Ground and Birds of Paradise. There's a Marble Diamond that he has access to, but I would say probably unlikely to be
unlikely. I'm just trying to think about how quickly.
Oh, and a Noble Hierarch.
And Noble Hierarch,
which is actually, we haven't seen that one quite good.
Yeah.
Here.
So thinking about how quickly he can get to one of the really powerful 5-mana enchantments, I could see that being a keepable hand if you're sort of dork into Fertile Ground into I have a turn 3 Mirari's Wake or I have a turn 3 Future Sight.
Yeah.
That's a hand that I can imagine being very reticent to throw back. But beyond that, I kind of wonder, even in my own drafts today, as looking at hands, it's like I have 6 1-drops and none of them are in my hand. Am I really going to win this game?
Yeah.
Similar with the Enchantress effect here.
Function knows what Sam's deck is about at this point, especially after seeing as many 2-for-1s as almost exists in this cube.
Yeah.
It's tricky because there are a lot of acceptable hands, especially in Function's deck where you have so much filtering.
Yeah.
So you say, do I believe in this Merfolk Looter that I'm currently thinking about keeping right now?
Yep.
With maybe not an Enchantress to follow it up, but maybe I'll find it. Maybe I'll use this Compulsion. Maybe I'll use this Frantic Search.
It's like Sam took a mulligan.
Function sticking with it, and I know that we have a Merfolk Looter coming on turn 2.
What else did we just pick up? I think it's a green card.
Oh, and then it was.
That's a Noble Hierarch.
I've identified what we picked up. The turn 2 Noble Hierarch, always on time.
Always on time. Over the Merfolk Leader, which is somewhat interesting. See Sam brainstorming here. The joys of being 5-color domain is get to play all these powerful cards and have a large number of fetch lands to help power through the filtering of the brainstorm.
And I would say that it is quite sure that Sam has a fetch land to make sure to shuffle those away.
Yes.
Unlikely to have cast that brainstorm into not having access to such a thing.
Rampant growth. There we go.
All right, we have a shuffle effect.
Does he take one of the basics just off the top? You know, something
I would have
away?
to show it.
Yep.
Be like, yeah, I put this back here.
Yeah. I know where it is. Probably I'd imagine finding a swamp. It's the most relevant of the colors for him, unless he has something like an FTK in hand.
Likely has all of the blue that Sam needs.
Yep.
Has 2 green sources, a white source, either FTK or a swamp is what it is.
Yeah. Swamp more relevant for more of the cards in his deck, but we'll see what he ends up choosing.
Yeah, and we obviously are not quite sure what's in Sam's hand.
We see another
double blue.
Okay.
What could we be casting off of a second blue mana?
Second blue mana.
We both spotted the card on Sam's list. I'll let you say it. I don't think it exists, but Sam's got.
He has an upheaval in his sideboard, which, okay, so let's play through this.
Yeah.
I'm playing against Enchantress. They are putting together this engine that is based on having a lot of permanents in play. I have a lot of mana dorks. I don't mind if stuff goes to my graveyard. Well, maybe I want a big dumb reset button for what could go horribly wrong. Here's the Trade Rune Rider that we talked a little bit about earlier as a way to potentially, as we said, slow down elements of that engine. Function with, I believe, a Stormbind in play.
Stormbind cast last turn, and we are now seeing Parallax Wave. One of my favorites, and going to immediately take out Trade Wind Rider, and that's going to stay removed from the battlefield until you can no longer remove a fate encounter from that Parallax Wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we see that Merfolk Looter in Fonchin's hand that has, by virtue of just not working out from curve purposes, still sitting in Fonchin's hand.
But I mean, just to take the step back to where we were, can you imagine the turn, one fate encounter left on Parallax Wave, upheaval, start my upheaval with the Trade Rune Rider in play? I think it's real. I think there's a shot.
I think there's a shot.
Too. What a fantastic thing to see. If we get the chance.
I truly do not believe. And he had the Badlands in play. Sam had the Badlands in his hand. I don't believe, and we see a Mirari's Wake, which is a banger here. This is a banger. This would be if you got that upheaval. Yeah, you have to be thinking about it. I don't know if you're going to pull the trigger, but how many turns can you really allow Fonchin to have with that Mirari's Wake?
Yep. Got a Wood Elves here, pulling out a Bayou, which we don't have Domain. We have access to all 5 colors, but we don't have a basic Plains.
We do not. We do not. That's true.
Domain counter. Keep it in the corner.
Yep. Yeah, Sam needs to have full Domain to win the game. Yeah. Not because he needs to for game purposes, but he just needs to be able to do it.
We have an FTK. It's going to take out the elf.
And I think
or the human.
I think the Noah Hierarch has kind of served his purpose, getting that Mirari's Wake out a turn early. So more just the fact that it's a creature for Sam to put on the battlefield that provides 4 power.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have seen the Merfolk Looter finally hit the battlefield after starting in the opening hand. But what we have missing is a way to draw cards. We have the mana. We have the Solitary Confinement in hand. We have the Merfolk Looter.
We're throwing a Stormbind random card. Solitary Confinement in the bin. It's gone. No longer an option for Fonchin.
No longer unless we find the cast from his hand.
Until we find the Replenish. Ravenous Baloth.
That and Genesis are going to be a lot tougher to take down with Stormbind.
So I think we now have Sam Hellbent.
And Fonchin picking up 2 lands going to immediately tap that Merfolk Looter to try to find something relevant. And let me tell you, we found a good card. We found that replenish. Now, it's not quite powerful enough yet, but it doesn't take much.
Indeed. And he's about to potentially have the chance to buy himself some more time when the parallax wave ends up in the yard through natural fading reasons.
Absolutely. I think it could be a turn early as Fanshin facing down technically lethal damage and not a whole lot to be done about it outside of utilizing that last counter on parallax wave.
Yep.
And I think that we're priced into using that last counter.
Yep.
And we're going to do that on Genesis, which means on Fanshin's turn, the failure to be able to remove a counter is going to push that parallax wave to the bin, Sam getting his creatures immediately back onto the battlefield.
Yep. So we are very likely to see a replenish here.
And we're really going to need to have a nice hit. We're going to have a nice hit. I don't know what it was. It was immediately shuffled to the back of the hand. Not nice enough because the forest is getting pitched, or perhaps not an enchantment.
Looks like a... Oh, can't quite tell due to the glare. It looks like a magic card.
I believe it's a foil Magic the Gathering card.
All right, let's see what happens as it enters the battlefield. It was a blue enchantment. That is an opposition.
Now, we don't have creatures on the battlefield other than Merfolk Looter at press time, but we know there's a Saproling Burst lurking.
Yep.
We know there is a Goblin Trenches lurking.
Yeah, well, lurking is an interesting concept here because there's a thing that Fanshin's not going to do on his turns anymore.
Well,
we replenished the Solitary Confinement back into play.
Yeah.
Fanshin's not drawing cards.
Not in the traditional sense.
No, I mean, there's a Merfolk Looter that will slowly run through the hand.
That's true, and there's a chance that we could just see Solitary Confinement sacrificed.
Yes.
And I would say that
Trayrun Rider is bouncing the Mirari's Wake back to hand.
And we're going to be floating a little bit of mana. For what? I don't know.
For activations of Stormbind, if I had to guess.
We got 2 lands. I would suppose we're going to pitch them. That's at this point you have to take out the Stormwind, the Stormwind Rider, if you are planning to play that Mirari's Wake.
Yeah,
I mean,
and this is kind of what we talked about as one of the reasons why you might see that Trayrun Rider come in is it's going to be able to sort of keep Fanshin maybe off kilter a little bit, just long enough to resource for Sam to be able to kind of punch through the protections that he has.
And that's going to be the case because Sam obviously unable to have Fanshin take any damage as he does discard a forest to the Solitary Confinement, keeping it around for a little bit longer, which I think with no Mirari's Wake, you may have to do.
Yeah. We saw that the card that Fanshin drew for turn is a Future Sight, and I think he does not have the blue mana to play it without the Mirari's Wake in play. The Mirari's Wake now in the bin. He does have the mana for the Future Sight. Exactly.
I presume.
Which is a fantastic combination with Solitary Confinement.
Yeah.
I don't need to draw cards. I'll just play the top card.
Right off the top.
Play right off the top.
But
you're discarding the card to keep the Solitary.
And Fanshin's Hellbent.
And Fanshin's Hellbent.
So.
Oh. Trayrun Rider just put a card back in his hand.
Okay. Which was that Future Sight.
Which was the Future Sight.
Again, we're in the predicament that we had with the Mirari's Wake. You're casting a 5-mana enchantment you need to untap with. Yep. Sam's like, you're not going to untap. You're not going to untap with that card on the battlefield, and you can't stop me. You missed your chance. You had the chance to do that with Stormbind.
Yep.
And you said, I would rather try to utilize my card advantage engine with Merfolk Looter instead.
Yep.
And here we are. How do we get out of this if we're Fanshin? The $1 million question right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Replenish no longer in play, as a way to sort of shortcut, losing some of these powerful spells. So we've already kind of blown our one big thing.
And we see a declining to discard that future sight. Now, Funchin is just letting this Parallax Wave tick down and potentially could have removed that Tradewind Rider from the equation a couple of turns ago, and maybe thinking, well, I didn't do it earlier. I don't want to do it now because I'm not going to get as much value out of it. And that can be a dangerous mindset to get yourself into as a Magic player. If you realize, maybe I didn't make a play earlier, I kind of don't want to make it now. And sometimes you just have to say, you know what? I didn't do it when I should have, but I still need to.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's really saving it for kind of a lethal attack, right? He's going to use it to sort of fog the two big creatures this turn. Ooh.
That is a Restoration Angel, which we have seen Sam use to win what is potentially going to be 2 games. And now we have reduced a turn for Tradewind Rider to be out of the battlefield.
And I think that's a concession from Funchin.
It's not a concession. It's just a lethal attack coming next turn. Sam Black picking up his 2nd win of the draft. Domain Rock taking down Angry Bant Enchantress. Incredible game 1 from Funchin.
Excellent. Excellent game 1.
Excellent game 1. And you can hang your hat on that, but ultimately Sam Black going to pick up the W.
Yep. Seeing that Tradewind Rider come in, start to manage some of those big expensive permanents and really knock them off balance.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. It didn't need to be forever. It just needed to be for a couple turns in a row. Bouncing 2 5-mana enchantments that were clearly critical to Funchin's plan for that game. Just like you identified, you say, you know what? I didn't want to mulligan. I got this Mirari's Wake that I'm going to be able to turbo out. Tough. It's just a tough decision. It did not pay off here because there was the interaction for enchantments. Sam doesn't have a lot of it. But he had the piece he needed.
And it's not the ones that you would think of, right? You normally think of, oh, I have this green, I have a naturalize, I have some sort of green or white card that's just going to get rid of the enchantment, right? This is a totally different way to sort of interact with it. And this is why Tradewind Rider was one of the most powerful Magic cards for a very long time, is because it could just lock people out of these games. Saw it oftentimes comboed with Intruder Alarm. I think that that may now be a extinct Commander level interaction that used to be good enough for Commander that no longer is. But a lot of really fun, powerful things going on with that card, and that's truly the joy of Cube, right? Is the ability to play these cards that aren't in Standard, that aren't in other formats where you're seeing them all the time, and just being able to create environments in which they shine.
It's the beauty of the format. It's the beauty of Cube.
It's the best part, right? There's very few cards which are truly uncubable. It's about finding the right environment. It's about creating a place for them to shine.
That's exactly
and having, this is a great way to see that for cards that I know and love and have seen be this level of power.
One of my favorite things about Cube is you can take a period of time or a draft environment or a constructed environment and say, I love this. I want to replicate this in the form of my Cube, and if you put the work in, you can do it. With a success, I've never seen someone actually put the effort in and fail.
Yeah, and we see that even in the future cubes that we have today. I think future in coverage will be the UMA-inspired cube by Zach Barish. Has just said, I love Ultimate Masters. I think it is like the most fun, interesting draft environment I've ever had a chance to play. I want to do something like that. He made his own editorial decisions about things that he thought might play better, added a little bit more power to it, kind of juiced it beyond a retail environment, and that's fantastic. I think it's so exciting to see players really get to do that sort of a thing, where they just get to enjoy and explore and love, their favorite limited formats or their favorite time capsules of Magic.
You're really only limited by your own creativity and being able to say, what do I want to create?
Absolutely.
And what we are going to do is we're going to take a quick break before we come back for Sam Black in just a few minutes to see if he can finish the 3-0 in our third draft of the day. Be back in just a moment.